Hi folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery, and today I'm going to be showing two different ways to make really simple ladybugs. I had somebody ask, so I thought I would do two in one video. To start, we're going to gather our supplies. I have really long strips of black and also red paper for this. The brand is Craft Harbor on both of those. Any quilling tool of your choice. Tweezers might be handy. I'm also going to be using small scissors for a moment and a small paintbrush. I have my Elmer's glue in my needle nose bottle, but I will be using tacky glue in one part. If you prefer to use clear glue for your black paper, go ahead and do that. Sometimes that helps with not having a little bit of glue left over. I will be building my ladybugs on a wax paper covered board with some pins to help, and you might need a ruler if you want to be real exact with your measurements. We will also be using a black permanent marker at the end. We're going to start with the more basic of the two ladybugs, but you'll notice they are very similar. We're going to be using almost the same techniques for both and almost the same size paper for both. To start, I am going to be making the wings. I have a 24-inch piece of that true red quilling paper, and I only need 12 inches for each wing, so I'm going to go ahead and just tear it right down the middle. If your paper is different size and you need to measure, by all means, go ahead and grab your ruler and do that. I'm just rolling the entire 12-inch strip, start to finish, on my needle tool. Like I said, if you prefer a slotted tool, that'll be fine for this project. Roll it all the way to the end. We're going to open it up a tiny bit, just for one little second. Open your fingers up to let that center relax just for a minute. We're going to be forming our wings, and it's a little bit easier to form your paper when you've given it a little bit of wiggle room, but we don't want it to be completely an open coil because we want that kind of density of the tight coil still. After I let it open and glue the end, you can see I'm pinching one side real hard and then the other side a little bit less hard. It's more of an uneven sort of crescent there. But you can see that little bit of an open space in the middle, and it was more, the paper was thicker as it went out. That's the look we're going for. I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other side. Roll up the paper all the way from start to finish. Let it open up for a moment. Glue down the end and give it that same pinch. We have our two wings made now, and they are more or less the same shape, the same size. This is what you are looking for at this point. And now we'll move along to the head of the first ladybug and also the main body. So for that part, you're going to need two strips of black paper. They are both 6 inches long. And I don't know if I mentioned before in the beginning, these papers that I'm using today are all going to be the 1/8 inch strips. 3 millimeters will also work. If you want just larger ladybugs, you would use larger paper, but they're all 1/8 inch. We're going to do the body first. We're rolling one of the 6-inch strips all the way again, start to finish, but this time we're going to let it relax more or less all the way, as much as we would any other project. Roll it all the way and let that paper open up as much as it wants to naturally. So we're looking at about that size. And then we will put a little dot of glue on the end and seal that shut. And we're going to give it a good solid pinch, but we don't want to pinch the whole thing. We want to leave that end out. Good solid pinch. And then while holding the pinch, we want to kind of push that other end back in. So it kind of is like a bulb out at the back. I don't know what that shape would be called. I have a chart around here somewhere, but that is what we're looking for. A solid pinch, and then just kind of a bulbous end on the other side. And for the head, we're going to take the other 6-inch strip of black paper and roll that all the way start to finish. Just like last time, instead of letting the coil relax completely, we're just going to let it open up a bit. And then glue the end. And because we want the head to fit on the body completely instead of having any open spaces, we need sort of a curved edge to that. So you can pinch both sides, or you can just wrap it around a tool like this, or a paintbrush, or a dowel, or something like that. And that makes a nice curved crescent shape that's going to fit right on your ladybug body very nicely. Here's all the parts that we just made. This is probably the most difficult part of this project, which is not very difficult at all. We're going to be putting the wings onto the body. So all the way from end to end with some glue on the wing, and then same thing on the body. If you just want to put the glue on the body, however you want to do this is fine. I just really like it when the wings and the body are completely glued, because they kind of want to pop off of each other pretty easily, just like that. Those curved shapes on paper just sort of repel each other sometimes. That would be fine. If that's the shape you prefer, that's fine. I liked mine to be really smushed on there, especially at the top of the wings. So in order to do that, I'm going to make use of my pins in sort of a kind of cross situation. And this takes a couple of tries. This is one of those situations where you might wish you had an extra hand or two while you get it set up. I just like them to be really, okay, sometimes you need to turn things to make it work, especially when you're trying to look through a camera to do it. And sometimes a little bit of extra glue on the bottom, because by this point the glue has started to set a little bit. However you want to do it is fine. This is just what I prefer. I really like to get the edges almost so it looks like a little circle. Everybody smushed in there. Push that back in a little bit to kind of fill up that space. That's about what I'm looking for. The wings sometimes fit all the way, sometimes they're just a little bit too long. In this case, they're a little bit too long, and that's okay. I'm going to wait for that to dry for a bit before I put the head on. While the body and the wings are drying, I'm going to go ahead and make what's going to be used as the antenna later on. I have an extra strip of black paper. It doesn't need to be anywhere near this long. This is for demonstration purposes only. But I want the antenna just to have a little bit more structure to them. So I'm making a double thick strip, which just means folding a length of quilling paper in half, adding a layer of glue to one side without making any gaps in the glue at all, and then running it back through my fingers once it's folded over again, sort of like a little zipper. Get all the air bubbles out, and when that glue dries, it's just going to be a nice sturdy piece of quilling paper, and we'll cut that into little pieces to use as the antenna. After a little bit of time, my wings and body are dry enough that I can take the pins off, and I'm going to apply a little bit of glue right to that back curve of the head and get that set right on the end. This is where tweezers can come in handy, but it should, because it has that curve, just fit right on the body without any gaps to the sides. And then once that double thick strip is dried, I like to make a little bend and then snip that right off to make a small V, very, very small V. And then I'm going to glue that right on the end for some little antenna. You can apply the glue right to the V if you want to, or really small pieces like this sometimes are handy to do just a little dip method. Either way, whatever works for you. Get the little tiny baby antenna on there and let that dry. And then we can move on to the second ladybug. And on to that second ladybug. Like I said earlier, it's going to look very similar to the first one. It's just more of a 3D version. To start, this time we're going to be making the body. And that's going to be a bit bigger. I'm using this entire 24-inch strip. If your strips are shorter, you can just glue them end to end till you get to 24 inches. That will work just fine. And just like earlier, rolling it all the way end to end. But instead of opening the body like we did on the first one, this time we are going to go for more of a solid shape. And to do so, we could just try to squeeze it into submission, but like with the wings, it tends to be a little bit easier to shape if you just let the center open up just a hair. Just about that much, just for a second. Glue down that end, and we are going to squeeze the center until it makes a small oval. You want to be careful though that you don't let your center pop out on you. If you squeeze too hard, you can lose your entire shape. So that's why I'm holding the center in with that one hand while I was squeezing the other. And then I want this to be slightly domed, so I gave it a little tiny bit of a push from the bottom. And then to set that shape, apply some glue and then use my paintbrush to brush it all smooth. And set that aside on your workboard to dry while you make your other pieces. We're actually making the same exact wings that we made for the first ladybug, those 12-inch red sort of uneven crescent shapes. And then we're going to making the head actually the same way as well. Another 6 inches of the same black paper, and then roll that up, let it open up a little bit, and mold it into a crescent around a tool, or just use your fingers, whatever you have handy. Once you have your pieces made and that body, the dome shape is set, you can start adding your wings to the top. I'm going to be using tacky glue for this because I don't want to hold them while they dry. Because this is more of a 3D shape, they're going to sort of look like they're in motion, sort of a flying ladybug situation. But to do that, I don't want the body to move while I'm gluing, so I'm just putting one pin right through the center of the body. Remember, because we let it open up a little bit, we do have a small opening in the center. So the pin right through there keeps that body still. And dipping into the tacky glue just on one end and on the bottom, I am dipping the one wing and sort of having it off to the side just slightly. If you want to, you can use something underneath as it dries. If yours are even more in motion, you can maybe prop them up and have them really look like they're flying. These ones, out of all the ladybugs that I made, I actually got these to where I like them pretty quickly. I made a whole bunch of these, you'll see in the end of the video. And sometimes these 3D wings just weren't laying the way I wanted to, so I really had to fiddle with it a lot. But these two went right in and right on, and I was really happy. So I can go ahead and add the head right away, another little dip. This one got a little bit too much glue on it, so I'm going to try to wipe some of that away without disturbing everything that I just made. Once all that's cleaned up, I can go ahead and make the antenna for this little guy, very similar to the last one, using more of that same double thick strip, making a V and snipping it off. But I, for some reason, found that for this ladybug, they just looked a little too bulky. So I ended up snipping that in half to make a more narrow piece. If you have any, of 1/16 inch paper lying around and you were making a whole bunch of these, you could just use that doubled up instead of snipping this. Your choice. But I just like the look of the more narrow V a little bit better for this ladybug. And it's now time to make these look really official, and we can start putting on the dots. And I am going the quick route, and I'm just using marker for these, straight up and down, just some dots on the red parts. I think an odd number is always a good idea. So some of my wings had 3 and then the other had 4. It's about all there is to it. This one, I think I'll do 5 on this one and then 4 on the other side to make 9 dots in total. That's all there is to that. I've seen other ladybugs where they have actually cut out little tiny circles. I'm not going to do that for these. I just went the dots. Like I said, these are super duper simple. And they're very small and they are very cute. And they come together very, very quickly. And here is my entire ladybug swarm. I had a lot of fun mixing up the colors. I have a couple different reds. I have an orange. I don't know if you have the orange ones where you are, but we have them around my house sometimes. You can make these different sizes if you want to. You can do whatever you like. As always, this is just an inspiration point. I do have an old blog post with a different version of ladybugs. I like these a lot better, but I'm going to include that in the description box for this video, along with links to supplies and anything else I think you might find interesting. I'd love to hear if you make the ladybugs, how they turned out, what you're using them for. Any other questions, leave those in the comments and I'll answer it as soon as I can. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.